But like I said, we're going to continue with the NFL and break down the AFC East. So for starters, I got the Patriots. Bill Belichick seemed like he was somewhat lost without Brady this year. I mean, he had a injury riddled and older Cam Newton. So it didn't really work well. So I think their number one priority this offseason is for sure the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? They need to find somebody there, maybe a cheap veteran, and then add somebody in the draft, maybe Mac Jones, Trey Lance if they trade up for him. So they could do that with the quarterback position. They definitely need weapons and wide receivers. You know, the guys they've drafted already just haven't panned out. You know what I'm saying? They definitely need some more weapons, maybe a veteran as well to add if they get a young quarterback. And then for defense, they had a lot of people who opted out. So I think them coming back, Hightower, you got Patrick Chung, I think it is. I mean, with them coming back, they'll be pieces, and I think they'll be fine on defense. They just got to definitely add maybe some younger pieces to groom behind them, not necessarily start or contribute right away. But overall, I mean, if they get that quarterback position down, I could see them maybe fighting for a wild card spot. What do you guys think?
I think personally, it came as a big shock to me as bad as their offense was, because before the season, you kind of thought that they had a lot of weapons. It was a really disappointing year, at least, entire NFL career so far for N'Keal Harry. I know in his first year, he started off real slow. He broke his ankle. He was out for all those games, but just hasn't exactly came around and been anywhere close to what they thought he would be. When he played for Arizona State, he was an absolute dog. I don't know what kind of fell off for him. And I agree with you, Nick, on what you said about them needing a quarterback desperately, but I think they're over the old veterans. I think they're going to try and pick someone up in the draft because let's face it, this year's draft, there are a handful of pretty good quarterbacks that I think could make a team in the NFL. I don't exactly know how they're all going to pan out, but like you said, I actually like the quarterback Mac Jones for them a lot. I think he kind of fits the Belichick scheme. He's kind of more so what you would want, I guess you could say, in an NFL quarterback when it comes to stature and like arm size and arm strength. But I think that it's going to take a lot more than the pieces that they've been trying to put together. I think the years of seeing Bill Belichick be able to pick up these random names that you haven't heard of aren't really panning out and paying off for him anymore. And I just think that all comes on back, like, with Brady leaving. I think Brady really did make a lot of these guys look like superstars who really weren't that good or that athletic, who like wouldn't have been stars for these other teams. So will he ever get another Tom Brady? I don't think so. But can he try and find someone who can at least keep up and, play the game? I think there's a great opportunity for him. But it was weird to see the Patriots fall off this year, I think, for everybody. Just no one expected that to see the season that they had. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick comes back next year and kind of sticks it to everybody and shows that he's still got it even without Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you guys both said. I think they might be a little scared to try to go get one of those weapons in the draft. Definitely could see them picking up a quarterback. I agree with Hunter there. But in terms of getting the wide receiver weapons, I'm pretty sure N'Keal Harry is their only wide receiver draft pick in like the last 5 to 10 years that is still in the NFL. Not just with the Patriots, but in the NFL. Or it might not even be 5 to 10 years. It might be like their last 5 to 10 wide receiver draft picks are just not in the NFL anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them go out and get a veteran to pair up with the rookie quarterback that they end up drafting, or even just a younger guy that's on the market, maybe a Carson Wentz or something like that. Is definitely possible. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Bill Belichick to go out there and get Deshaun Watson either, something like that, But I agree with everything you guys said. I just wanted to make that point about how, like, they haven't had any success drafting weapons for that offense. And it's definitely been Brady that's been putting that together, because you'll see as soon as they leave, they're not in the NFL anymore. Yeah. So what does that tell you? And they don't have Brady anymore. So they got to do something about that offense. Their defense, solid. Could definitely make some improvements as well there, but offense has to be what they're harping on this offseason.
100%. 100%. Their defensive line obviously can use a little bit of tweaking, because, I mean, back in the day, their defensive line, or at least their linebackers, their front eight was was always almost like the core of their defense. It started switching up a couple of years ago, where now it's really the defensive backs. They had the Malcolm Butler, both McCourtney brothers, Patrick Chung. That list goes on and on, where they've always been
Gilmore now.
Yeah, yeah. So, it's one of those things where I think they might end up trying to go back to like that front eight back when they had like, Teddy Bruschi and Vince Wilfork and like these big guys, these big dogs who were able to kind of stop the run, because they're settled in for defensive backs, but I think their D line still needs a little bit of an improvement to kind of just be that insane defense that the Patriots have always worked with.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that 100%. Then we move on to the Bills, which, I mean, as we know, they have all the necessary pieces to run it back again. They got Josh Allen, who's improved year after year. Doesn't look like he's going to regress at all. Just keep getting better. They might need to add a couple weapons or a couple pieces to the O-line. But, I mean, they do have veterans coming back, so they should be able to run that back. Maybe just add some young pieces in the draft or something. And then they might have to fill a void at linebacker if they lose their star linebacker, Matt Milano. But, I mean, you could obviously fill a linebacker, especially when you're a good defense like that. It doesn't take much with the coach and everything. So they have all the necessary pieces to just run it back. I see them winning the division again. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely don't need any help at wide receivers. Their wide receivers are just freaking. They're dominant. They got a great running back in Zach Moss. Their defense is like interesting to me. It's one of those defenses where when they're good, and like they just. I'm not saying when they're bad, they're bad. It's just they have a couple of these random games where you're like, what happened, kind of out there. And like you said, they're going to be missing pieces. But yeah, I got them next year to kind of make that return and win it again. It's an interesting division though. It's relatively competitive now with the Dolphins stepping up, and obviously the Patriots have kind of held down that division forever. But it does kind of feel like it's like the Bills' time. And they've got a lot going behind them.
Yeah, I completely agree. Again, I don't really have anything to add to that. I think they definitely repeat in the division. I think that in order to take the next step and like make it to the Super Bowl this year, obviously they're probably gonna have to run into the Ravens, their Chiefs again, probably. Which they handled the Ravens well, and they didn't have a good showing against the Chiefs. I think in order to take that next leap into the Super Bowl, Josh Allen needs to take another step forward, which he has every year, like Russo said. But in terms of the division, I think that's their division right now.
Yeah, for sure. And like Hunter was touching on a little bit, they got the Dolphins right behind them, trying to keep it competitive. That culture Brian Flores set with that team, I mean, it's just been great all around. I think Tua can be the answer for them as long as he takes the proper strides forward. And they definitely have a shot to come at the Bills. I think they could add another weapon in the draft, maybe Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase at number 3. And they use a couple pieces on defense. I think their cornerbacks are elite, that's for sure. Maybe another safety linebacker to add to that. Free agency in the draft, obviously. But they definitely could take a run at the Bills. I just don't think they're going to take it over. You know what I'm saying?
I agree 100%. Honestly, I don't know if anyone agrees with this, but I'm kind of worried about Tua. Like, I know the entire year I was the guy who was like, you got to play him. You got to play him. You got to play him. You got to see what he's got. But, I mean, there were games where they were taking him out. Games where, like, they didn't really give him the opportunity when they were down for him to try and come back and show what you got. And even if it was a rough game, I think those are still humbling games that no matter what a rookie has to go through. Like, I know that we saw Tua this year, but I almost feel like we didn't, in a sense. Like, there's a lot more that he was going to have and that he was going to kind of bring to the table. But they kind of held him back a little bit. So that's my main worry for their team. Isn't they're going to be an all-around good team. They've got some studs on offense. They've got some really good guys on defense, but they don't seem complete to me at the quarterback position, even with Tua. And I wonder if next year, if Tua doesn't have a good first couple 3-4 games, if he is even gonna, I think he's gonna be the starter out of the chute. But I still got this feeling that they like Ryan Fitzmagic. I just think that he's not. He felt like this year that was his team, and that he deserved to be that starting quarterback and to be the one who was playing. And they kind of have. I don't even know if you can call it a quarterback battle or like I guess it's more so a quarterback drama where you get this guy and at the sixth pick and you have this old man in Fitzpatrick who you're like, he's playing again. He looks good again. So I'm kind of worried for them at that position. However, I do see them taking second in the division. Again, this is all pending what happens with the Patriots and everything like that. But I'm kind of sitting on the sidelines before I'm over here saying that they're gonna get a wild card, even though they're right out this year. Like they could have games could have went their way in order to land that position, but I'm not sold on them yet. Not 100%.
Yeah, I honestly think they can definitely push for a wild card. I mean, they got the third pick, right? And then they got a couple other first rounders, right? Or is that next year where they got a couple more?
Yeah, no, they have
No,
another.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they can add pieces where they see fit, wherever they think that their weaknesses are. And I mean, to Hunter's point about the quarterback drama going on, I mean, it's a tough situation where you don't know who to choose, but it's a good problem to have. You know what I mean? You got guys, you got like the Patriots are like, oh, what are we gonna do? The Dolphins are like, we got two guys that we could really rock with. Like we've won games with Fitzmagic, we've won games with Tua. Whoever wins that battle, cool. If they get hurt, got the next guy in. Like, it's a good problem to have in a sense. I think Fitzmagic is definitely gonna help Tua a lot. I mean, he's one of the most unselfish quarterbacks we've seen. We've seen him our whole lives. He doesn't mind taking a backup role. He'll still treat it the same. He'll teach Tua. He's not gonna be on like some jealous, I'm not talking to him type of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that'll help Tua in his development overall. But yeah, I mean, if they just clean up a couple pieces where they got some weaknesses in the draft and free agency, I think they push for a wild card for sure. Definitely pushing for second in the AFC East. I don't think they'll push the Bills. I think the Bills are going to have another phenomenal regular season. So
It makes it interesting though. I think they actually have it's either 9 or 10 draft picks this year after having like 10 and 10 the past 2 years or 10 and 9 the past 2 years. So I mean they drafted very well. And if they continue to do that, like you just said, it's going to be interesting to see where they fill these pieces. I just worry about the whole age thing. Say Tua is the one who's going to go, and say they do get Devontae Smith, who I think is going to be a stud. And they have that chemistry already that they can get going. But there's still that veteran aspect in the NFL where there's going to be guys who grown men who are going to be covering Devontae Smith who might get the better of him on a certain game. There's going to be these grown men linemen who might beat up Tua a little bit. So I'm more worried that they stunt Tua's development, or that's what they did this year, and that it's almost like a one situation where they kind of screw up his mindset a little bit, where he's like, okay, well, like, is this my team or not? Because as soon as it is his team, I think that's when we're going to start to see him flourish. As soon as he has the confidence behind him where he's like, no, I'm the NFL quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. Because as of right now, I just don't get that feeling from him, especially when he's out there playing and, he throws a couple picks and they just pull him. So we'll see what happens. But I've got a lot of faith in them. I got a lot of faith in them drafting, especially. But I don't have too much faith in it all happening in 1 year. I think we're going to be looking at a couple years down the road where we're going to start to see the Miami Dolphins be dominant again or better in that division.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't think it's going to all come together and they're going to be a great team next year. I mean, they were pushing for the wild card this year already with the QB drama going on, throwing Tua into the fire. He played well. They took him out after they took him out in one of the games, put Fitzmagic back in. He played well. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's kind of a good problem to have. They both played well. They were winning games. If they improve a little bit, I think they're a lock for the playoffs. Not a lock, but they got a great chance at the playoffs.
Yeah.
I agree with you though, Hunter. In order for them to be like dominant, especially in the AFC, it's going to take some years. But if you keep developing and drafting well and picking up some guys in free agency, I think it'll happen.
Yeah.
They got a bright future if they play right.
100%.
I'll agree on that. And then we go to my Jets lastly. So the only way I see the Jets having any shot competing, obviously, is getting Deshaun Watson. But without Deshaun Watson, I mean, there's just too many question marks around Sam Darnold, the defense, the offensive line, weapons. I mean, you need just about everything. So even if they have an amazing draft and free agency and they stick with Darnold, or they draft a quarterback in Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. I mean, I don't see them winning more than 5 to 7 games without Deshaun Watson picking up. And even with that, they have to make the right moves. But it's like they have too many holes to fill, and it's not going to happen in a year. So they're a few years away from me. I would assume everybody agrees on that, right?
I'm glad you finally being realistic, Russo.
John Watson makes everything different, but if we're not getting Watson, then yeah, it's a couple of years away.
It doesn't look like you guys are either, right?
What's up?
It doesn't look like you guys are getting him either, right?
Yeah.
I think didn't the report come out saying like, yeah, he doesn't want to go there. I mean, and Houston doesn't want to trade him. So I mean, we'll see. But
that's fair. And he has a no trade clause, so he basically picks where he goes.
Yeah, I wouldn't bank on it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Which is why keeping Sam Darnold, I think, is a mistake, because if we're going to win 5 to 7 games regardless with Sam or with the rookie, you know what I'm saying, then why are we going to put ourselves in the position to be average again? And then we have to pay Sam $25 million. So now it's like, it just doesn't add up. So that's why I think they're going to go rookie quarterback.
I think I agree with you, Nick. I think that they're going to be trying to get a quarterback in the draft. My issue with the Jets, though, doesn't kind of strain as much on like the quarterback position and Sam Darnold as it does with like the depth of the team, because you guys have some names here and there, but when those names go down, there's nothing really to back them up and help them out and replace them. And the Jets, although you guys find yourselves getting some halfway decent draft picks, they don't keep them. And I think that's a big issue that's been going on for years, and that's what's kind of been playing into like the depth of the Jets. It's one guy goes down, they don't really have anything else coming up, and they are banking off of a lot of younger players like doing well for him. The Mekhi Bectons, just like Jamal Adams when you guys had him, who was great on the Jets, but it all leads back to I don't think it's going to happen overnight for the Jets. I think it's going to be a long course of a couple years, like we're saying. And for them to go out and draft a quarterback, I think that's the better decision. I think Zach Wilson is a great quarterback. I think that he's going to surprise a lot of people, and he's going to impress a lot of people when he gets into the league. However, you guys are in the big rebuilding process. You have a great head coach. You got a lot of money to do it. So do I think that process can be rushed? Possibly. I think, if you guys get to Zach Wilson and you start paying, use that $80 million to start moving it around, picking up some different pieces to help him out, finding that depth and slowly working up into it, then yeah, the Jets, they got some potential. But I agree with you. I have the constant battle in my head: is Sam Darnold really worth it or not, or should you just get rid of him? And it kind of seems like his time in New York is it's over.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. It sucks because I think he is a talented quarterback. I think he had a lot going for him, but I just think the situation that he was, AG disagrees, I think the situation that he was dealt with just wasn't ideal for anyone. You could have picked any quarterback out of this draft class. I don't think they would have done well there. And I don't think that I don't think that the Jets would have done anything in that time period for any other quarterback to make them better. If they would have gotten Lamar, they weren't changing to a running offense. They would have made him throw. If, they somehow landed Baker Mayfield, I don't think they would have ran play action with him. I don't, all of these quarterbacks in that draft had something special to them. And I don't think they accessed that with Sam Darnold. I don't think they had him throwing it on the run. I don't think they had him running play action. I don't think they had any pieces for really downfield, and they didn't have a line to even get him to protection to throw downfield. So they killed him. It's that simple. Just start new, start fresh.
I know.
To that point, they got rid of the biggest problem already. They solved the biggest issue, firing Gase.
100%. That's fine. Just restart now. You just chalk up the last couple of years. It is what it is. You guys had bad years. Good years are to come. But guess what? You have to start completely fresh. Everything's gutted. I'd say gut the quarterback. Get rid of him too. He's young. He's going to play somewhere else. He'll be fine. He'll find another job. But for you guys to get Sam Darnold back to where he was when he was coming in as a rookie, and he was happy to be in New York, he was happy to play for the Jets, I don't know. I don't see him. I don't think he's happy. I don't think he's happy at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. AG, do you want to say anything else on that?
No, that's it. I mean, I'm more interested in what you had to say about your Jets. I mean, like you said, you don't see a too promising future already, but I don't know if you had anything else to add, but.
Yeah, I mean, I got faith in Joe Douglas. I got faith in who the head coach they hired, Robert Saleh. I mean, obviously the first mistake, like you said, was getting Gase, but they moved on from that. They fired him. And Hunter, as you said, they need a fresh start. So that's where I think they'll go. I think Joe Douglas is smart enough quarterback, general manager to realize that they need to start fresh on a rookie deal for a quarterback rather than paying Sam Darnold for this year. I think it's $10 million this year. Then his fifth year option be $25 million. And then after that, you're gonna have to sign him to a big time contract. And we're just not ready for that. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think you even, I think you just get rid of that headache before it becomes a thing. There's no, Sam Darnold's not showing me a single reason to pay him that money.
Exactly.
To do anything. And if that's the case, then you get rid of him before you have to. Because imagine Sammy D does get the weapons around him. He gets all those pieces, and then he's just looking like, it's like Mitch Trubisky round 2 with him sort of thing, where it's like he's got like a nice Allen Robinson, but he doesn't get him the ball. He still makes the same mistakes, and you're paying the guy. Just doesn't make any sense to me. If you got the new coach, you got a relatively new GM, I think you just start fresh. You have the money to do it. I say get the entire team. There's got to be a couple faces that you definitely want to stick around, but I don't think Sam Darnold's one of them.